not believing. Our problems ended back in 2013 when we ended our separation and got back together again. I should mention that I am ASD and that one of my qualities is loyalty. I know my wife said she had slept with 12 guys in the 4 years we were separated and that they were for the most part better built than I am and better lovers. Ouch. I didn't like it much, but I am dogged in my commitments and went to IC to get through it all. Wife says it's in the past, so don't bother. I am a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to computers. I am 60 and married for almost 40 years. I tried to uninstall a couple of unwanted programs and I erased the start functions and many of the other programs. I went to System Restore and when it got working, I find a bunch of strange files on my first page, so I open them, usual stuff. Some accounting work, information downloads, but then I open one and it has a 15-page typescript of dirty talk with some guy named Bill dated back in late 2015 to 2016. From what they were saying, it is clear they had slept together many times. Then in a file about pictures of flowers I find some 25 photos of them doing everything you can imagine. Her adopted, sort of, daughter was alone at her family's cottage and my wife went up and was going to stay from Wednesday to Friday morning and the two of them would come home. Not certain about that now. Anyway, I called her up and read some of the typescript to her. First she said it wasn't her, then she said she didn't remember it, then that it was when we were separated. I reminded her that by 2015 to 2016 we had been back together for 3 years. Then she said it was fiction she was writing. For what purpose? Yeah, I believe she's writing the newest novel. Her final shot was that he was gone. He didn't look like a zombie, and so what? She was sleeping with some guy who wasn't me, even if it was a couple of years ago. At that point she said, don't read it anymore, it will bother me. Yeah, thanks. About 20 minutes later I came on the pictures. So I called her back and told her what was in the pictures. Again, she said don't look and I said too late. She hung up on me and hasn't been available since. First, I need to get more information from her as to the length of the affair, etc. Why she was refusing sleeping with me while she was banging me. I'd like proof that he is dead. So, I know where I'm headed. I have phoned her sister, the guy she does the accounting for, and her brother. I will wait to see what I am doing before I call my family. I haven't spoken to them in a while, I guess I'll need to. I know what to do. Be cordial and control my temper. Speak to her about the regular things but not our relationship. Suggest marriage counseling. Separate my accounts, find a good lawyer and have her served. Canada is, I believe, no fault, but I want to see if there is some way I can get her adultery in the divorce papers. Division of property isn't much, as all we really have is my pension, and it tops up the divorced spouse. So, her pension is about $10,000 while mine is closer to $50,000 unless I stay and work till I'm 65, then I'll get about $60,000. She has always thought that we would stay together because we can't afford it otherwise. To add to the mix, I am on dialysis and working for another 5 years is a problem. And I'd need to afford to live near a unit, limits my housing options. I guess the only thing I fear is dying alone. It was hard enough to find the one I got. Sucks. Apparently by revealing to these people in her life she says I have ruined everything. She called me back and said that she met the guy during the separation but didn't see him till 2015 and went to him for a good time once or twice a month. All I really told her was that I wasn't mad so much as disappointed and sad that it had come to this. She reminded me that at the time she was trying to keep it together. That was during the time that I had a low heart rate, failing kidneys, and was unable to walk much, but I just kept on working and doing what I had to do. She claimed that slept with him kept her from giving up, and now that I've found out and exposed her to her brother, sister, and a woman she admired greatly, she has nothing to live for. Oh, and they only got together 6 or 9 times. I asked her if that justified turning our marriage into a joke and me into a cuckold. She says if that's how you want to look at it. I want her to come home so we can work it out together. But I suspect the marriage is over. I need to clarify. I am ASD and I have emotional deficits that make it difficult to know how people and girls in general are responding to me. I admire you guys who seem to be able to find girlfriends fairly quickly because I can't. At 60 I have few friends and don't know many women. I don't even have a clear idea how I would go about it. I do not fear losing my wife as much as I fear living in a sterile, loveless environment. Life is about overcoming fear, and as much as I don't like the idea of being alone, I like myself enough to be with me by myself, but I would still like someone to be with. I just have a hard time finding them. Whatever happens, and with good advice, I will come out of this as good shape. She understands her pain and see this as something I am doing to her. I have a choice to feel how I want about it, and she is again not taking any calls. I will likely have to find a shark for a lawyer and protect myself. She would have liked to keep it in the past, but now she can't. I'm still to the point where I can't eat and don't sleep. That's okay, I can afford to lose a bit more weight. I don't think I can get past this. If she stays as remorseless as she has been, I will out her and send copies of the pictures and typescript to our son, members of our families, her brothers and sisters, my brother, our friends, and put her on Cheaterville. Does this seem unreasonable or knee-jerk? The reason for the first separation was a psychologist who said I was toxic and that she'd never get herself together if she stayed with me. She moved out for a couple of months but came back a mess. The second time I think that a whole lot was going wrong. Our condo fees went crazy because the board was suing everyone. Turns out the guy behind our condo is the same guy who bilked Trump out of a couple of $1 million. She had decided to bring her mother to live with us. We had both worked in palliative care and refused to let her go there before it was necessary. But my mother-in-law deteriorated to the point that she needed more care than we could provide. When the wife decided we needed to buy a house so that she could have the upstairs set up for her to care for her mother and I would stay downstairs, I balked. She was fighting the condo board and tried to help people in real trouble as well as take care of her mother and supporting a drug-addled Russian couple. I said enough is enough and we separated. After her mother passed, in about 3 years and a couple of months we started dating, and 6 months later we got back together. She had not bothered to tell me about her social life or what she had been up to until last year, and I only found out last spring and that it was 12 guys. She used the fact that most of the 12 could bring her to orgasm while I had trouble getting her there. I have been reeling since then. She seems to think that she was justified in doing what she did and that it is my fault that she cheated. Her final argument is that she needed him to stay sane. She says I should let it go because it was 3 years ago. It was only 6 to 9 times. She won't do it again. He's gone and I am not very good in bed. I want to talk to her to get my head around what happened and why. If she continues as she has, I will expose her to our son, our friends and family. Anyone else who needs to be told in Cheaterville. Spent the day in hospital. Did some test. Wife is coming home tomorrow to talk. There are many questions I need answered and she wants to try again. She is starting to understand how much it hurts and how crushed I am. If, however, she decides and I decide that it isn't going to work, I will be forced to explain it to him. I have read so many times here that the way to get a cheater's head back where it is would be to make them aware of the consequences. Do I intend to go scorched earth at this point? No. Do I want to expose her to our family? Not really. But if she continues to lie, deceive and try to sweep it under the rug or forgets, like did she slept with him 6 times or 9 times? Key facts: it remains an option. She sorts of said the same thing and I told her she should have figured on consequences when she slept with another man. It's funny, but for the first time in our marriage she is afraid of what I might do and speak. She is 59. I am on the transplant list. Wife and I were going to start a mindful meditation program together. But I'm not sure I want to do anything with her. It takes between 4 to 9 years to get a transplant. Just about the time I'll be ready for a new relationship. Another night no sleep, lost 2 kilos so far, can't eat and I don't feel like doing anything. Answer your question: when we had bond it was limited to a few positions. Nothing fancy. Nothing like what is in the pictures I have of her and her lover. He died during their affair it seems, but my wife is doing a timeline. Yes, there are other infidelities along the way and she alternately admits to and then doesn't admit to her affairs. She tells me her lover was caring, compassionate and soulful. All things I am not. I asked her, why the hell didn't you move in with him? But she said there was nothing to move into. Other than their bed game, he had no time for her. We are meeting later this morning and she promises to come clean about things. I am confused, scared and numb. I am surprised that I am not overtly angry, but I do break down. I guess I will find out shortly and once I have most of the story, so hopefully she will fill in the gaps. My wife is back and last night and today we engaged in arguing and explaining. She called him a psychic mate sent by God. I reminded her that Jesus limited us to one spouse only and the rest of limits. She said she felt our marriage was no marriage because I have my problems in bed. Never pleased her, can be in as at times, and because of my ASD, and that I never accomplished anything without her help. She also said her lover was a manager of some sort of commercial lights and staging for things like award shows and the like. He starts a project, figures it out, then does it. Nearly 30 years of teaching, writing, building websites, curriculum, and being trusted by both administration and the union, coached championship girls rugby teams, and on an average year having the highest student contacts, or any of the other things, and I don't make a lot of money. What can I do? We agreed to live in the same house for 6 months. She is to tell me everything about her affair, including the stuff that will hurt me. We will find a way to live till we can afford to split. She said it didn't matter. She was going to drive away and live in her car. God forgive me. I said to her, if it makes you happy, go do it. Same thing when she says she has no reason to live and wants to kill herself. I said okay. Monday I am going to the bank to open my own accounts. I will not pay for her car and I want off the credit card she uses. Then I have appointments to half-hour appointments with some lawyers. I want to find Hammerhead Shark to pound her head and eat her alive. In Canada the law says that assets are 50-50, but you can shorten the time it takes to a couple of months if you can prove adultery between the pictures and the chat room transcript she has done. For a man making 6 figures a year, the standard alimony is about $25,000, but after the tax deduction it's down to about $15,000. More than I can afford, but manageable. On the distaff, I have never really felt this level of pain and loss. When I spoke to her and she talks about how good he is, I got her to admit that he wasn't good but immoral. I decided that I would work as long as I could before I had to quit. It got me out of the house and I love coaching, teaching and working up curriculum. I teach law. One common bit of advice is waiting for some time and think about what you want to protect yourself and then decide. She says that if we split, she doesn't want any money from me. Hope that means my pension too. Such gesture lasts about as long as the WW starts to think about financing her good life. I am thinking of squirreling away some money and see if I can borrow some from my dad to pay for lawyers, etc. Is it wrong for me to post the guy on Cheaterville? Everybody thought he was so wonderful that I think a little bit of tarnish belongs on his statue. I would post my wife to even saying that caused me to trigger. You are all so right. My digest failure to date is in my language. I worked as a trucker for 5 years. Obvious anger and sense of betrayal, not to mention be naturally sarcastic. One of my students said that I was the most natural, authentic and sincere in my use of bad language. I am having a problem with manning up because of my ASD. I have to think it through all the time. I need to relax, let the mind go and do it naturally. I've got the papers downloaded but I need the time to fill it out. My idea was that the adultery stays on the file forever. Her lover is in fact gone. I fear that if he hadn't passed, she might still be going to see him. We continue to talk but have decided to do 180 to limit conversation. I asked her why she would make those pictures. She said it was a hobby and private. They took them to look at when they needed to. I did learn that they met on a site for people who wanted a good time, but no relationship. The longest time she ever stayed at his house was about an hour and rarely longer. There was no relationship, just hi, let's have fun. She told me that she figured I was aging quick and so I would never find out. He passed about 2 weeks after their last hookup. She called him some 2 to 3 weeks later to find out he was gone. I said I was mad that he passed because I would have laid waste to his world like the two of them laid waste to mine. She said she was mad at him too, so I asked why. Were you hoping to keep it up for years? No answer. Seeing some signs of remorse. She is crying and apologizing and realizes the pain she has caused, etc. I question her sincerity since she still defends the affair. I was sick and going to die. She was depressed and in a bleak place and slept with him was the only time she was treated as if she had any value. He built up her confidence and recharged her batteries so she could come home and take care of me and feel human. I said that it was a bad choice, a wrong thing to do because it turned her into a liar, a deceiver and a common adulterer. Later on, she is crying because she had done nothing with her life and was ending it all with adultery. It didn't matter how long she lived, she messed up her family, husband and children and betrayed the most important people in her life. Yeah, right, your Academy Award is there by the door. I am starting the 180 and moving to divorce. I found a lawyer whose office specializes in divorce from the male side. The material I have is more than enough for adultery and she still says she doesn't want my money. My wife was not contacted by him for nearly 6 weeks and was wondering if he had a new lover or if they were still on. His boss emailed her back to say he was gone and already cremated. He was on a website, which is where they met. She tells me the site was a fun site and that she did not love him. He was never going to marry her. And all they had between them was playful and he was good at it. If the copies of their conversations are accurate, she didn't go to him more than once a month and even less. Her total of 9 is also supported by the copies. My problem is that while we are getting along in a distant sort of way and I view her as a person who shares space with me, sometimes I actually like her and could love her enough to take back. Most of the time I can't even look at her. I trigger several times a day and burst out into yelling, cursing at her and referring to things she did in the pictures or said in the typescript. I think I have PTSD. I have my first appointment with a psychiatrist on Friday and some I see to start after we go back to school on the 2 of September. Oddly, I have new cloths that look good on me. I hit the gym and rugby pitch 3rd of September. I am getting too close to retirement to feel a lot of enthusiasm, but it gets me out of the house to do things I love and get home while my wife is too tired to do much, like talk and argue with me. She has been begging me not to leave and not to tell our son about the situation. Now that I have names of his sisters and brothers and his kid, I am prepared to blast the reputation of the sub. That may make me a very good man, but he destroyed my family. In the event, my son's family, and I will ensure that everyone from his employer to his ex knows what a posse he was. When I am in a calm, safe place, all I feel now is sad and disappointed and trying to come to terms who looks like my wife but isn't. Our finances are separate and I will not pay for debts and credit cards I didn't create or use. She can also cover the costs of her car. I have seen a few lawyers, but I haven't found one I like yet, but there is time. The reason why she cheated was that our marriage has been so bad that she knew 2 weeks in that she shouldn't have married me. Premarital bonding was bad, marital bonding was bad, and she lost interest. I ballooned to 340 pounds on a 5'8" frame and couldn't have cared about bonding. I was very ill in 2015 to 2016. The problem was a drug overdose of a heart medication that dropped my heart rate into the low 30s. At the time I was sent for a stress test and failed it badly. I was sent to cardio rehab where I was doing the exercises while overdosed on meds for about 3 weeks. When the error was discovered, the meds were adjusted, but the damage done took another 8 months to fix. I think that I was still working at the time. My wife would send me off to work and then go over to his condo downtown. Since then, I have dropped to 195, still too fat, and am trying to lose more. I feel much better, have done a lot of walking, and dialysis has made a difference. My wife has said she will do anything I want. I can stay or go. Send her away or not. We have agreed to let things settle before we make a decision. She has even said that she didn't want any money from me, but given that we live in one of the more expensive cities in North America, I have a feeling that won't last too long. At the moment I have real problems with the mind still pictures, triggering and outbursts of extreme anger and frustration. I am not violent but can be hard in my language. I use images and am very sarcastic. She is not used to me standing up to her and not letting her reshape the stories. She seems to be pulling her head out of the sand. She has admitted that while her lover had a really good job, he wasn't always so nice. She said they didn't talk too much, just slept together, and she went home. That seems to make it worse, but she thinks I should feel better about it because there was no love, connection, or emotion between them. I asked her if she had slept with him and she had to say yes. I asked how bonding having is different if you are in love or not. You have still broken your vows. She replied that I never really believed in my vows because I am not as religious or spiritual as she is. But then she broke her vows and I did not, and she was the religious one. 8 days out, one step at a time. I will get through this and I will be better for it. When I confronted her, my wife was so upset that I had found the pictures in TypeScript that she purged the computer to get rid of them. I really believe that she did the purge out of horror, guilt, and embarrassment when faced with the hard copies of pictures and script. I have dealt with her explanations and held her to task. I admit that I've been a poor husband in many ways and take the lion's share of the marriage problem, but her cheating was a choice she made that was 100% on her. The logical fallacy of compartmentalization is that the BS is directly connected to the other man through the cheater. To argue, as she did, that her buddy and I are separate entities and unrelated is untenable. I am ASD and have a need to find out the why of things and collect information before I decide how to act. This is why it was important for me to read the TypeScript and look at the pictures as well as trying to find out what she was thinking. The problem is that once I am satisfied, I know what I need, I can let things go. To my own detriment. When I got up Wednesday, I found a very downcast and quiet wife. I have never seen her like that. She didn't try to defend anything but apologized again and again. For the first time ever, she referred to herself as a wicked. She said she would understand that if I threw her out, she would go live on the street, that she was undeserving for what she had done and she couldn't meet my eyes. I told her that I meant to take time and wouldn't throw her out at this point in time. She made me breakfast and delivered it to the table. First time since forever. Later she said that the most horrible thing she had done was stop sleeping with me some 30 years ago, reducing us to roommates. Then she asked if I would make love with her. I was terrified since my history of love making and lack of skills has gone a long way to my celibacy. She didn't care. When we got to the deed, we agreed to go slowly, but much to my amazement I tired her out. And again that night and this morning. At the moment I am on a self-confidence high, with self-esteem like I've never had. I'm still on the 6-month track. I have 3 copies of my evidence and she can't find them. One is in my lawyer's safekeeping, being revealed to her lawyers and the courts. A set to be copied and sent to my family and hers, and a set for the guy's brother and sister. But only if it seems necessary. I am too warm and fuzzy to think about those things at the moment. Although I have not yet tried to find another woman, I am proving to myself that whatever problems I had seem gone. Best bonding ever. But I am not naive. STD test. Yes, clear both of us. Do I love her? Not sure yet. But we are spending my plans good money to find out together. Singly, and I am seeing a psychiatrist. I still have PTSD, trigger regularly but have the rages under control. I am also ASD, so it's a little more complicated. I have looked at the pictures and read the transcript till they no longer bother me as objects. I can even say that some of the pictures are so well done they border on art. I am still pissed off that he died before I could talk to him and tell him what's what. As to the wife, if she can get me to love her again, it might be worthwhile staying together. We do have grandchildren and a 40-year investment, and my wife's pension would offend a street person. She says I am not her plan B, as she never intended to leave me for him, just didn't bother to tell me about it. I need her to explain that better. When I touch her, or we are getting intimate, she wants me to put it in and do the job, and I think, did he do this or touch her there? And I asked her, is there anything left to make ours? We have a couple of ideas. I still want a timeline. I was medicated into oblivion for much of the time. I want to be clear at least of the timings. I really have a limited memory of her during her affair. The lawyers have the evidence should I need it, and copies to send to his family and hers. If things are better in 6 months, I'll pull it all back in and destroy it. just keep a stick in case. If not, I will file. When I said 6 months, I meant it and committed myself to the path, and I will follow it to its end. My preferred approach would have to drop her at his front door, bags in hand, but he is gone. She would rather start over as of a few days ago. I have gotten in the habit of telling her why I am triggering and what I am seeing. I have demanded complete honesty and detail if I need it. If it bothers her, or she has a hard time with the pain she is causing or feels down, I tell her it was her decision and she should have thought more about it. As the shock leaves, the pain grows and my anger with it. I am starting to gain control of things and thinking of my future. My wife is serious. Why, racked with guilt and remorse, but can't see why I won't let go and need questions answered. She would rather forget and move on, but I'm not ready. Why 6 months? Because I said I would take 6 months. The advice I get is between bail now and take time to calm down. I don't want to respond to a bad choice with a worse choice. Since I'm not that attractive to women and awkward, I don't fear a raw, and in my younger days had problems finding dates. I'm not creepy or anything like that, just a little dull on the exterior. I wasn't aware that mind movies, or mind pictures in my case, would be so pervasive. If I clear my mind, they move in. They superimpose on her when she moves or does something. I find myself sadder sometimes than angry. From what I've read and what my wife has told me, I think that she never told him she was married. They met while we were separated and on our way to the divorce that never happened. I can't imagine that only meeting in the mornings and being together less than 2 hours should have clued him in that something was up. I guess my problem is that I am not too happy with the person I might become. I wished he was alive at one point so I could use the evidence against him at work. Show his family and daughter, who is only 18 and in first-year university, for what reason. If he didn't know that she was married and that she had sought him out and left him believing she was divorced. I can hardly vent on him or destroy his reputation. He is not as guilty as I had thought and hoped. It leaves me looking more at my wife. I see the pictures again or listen to the typescript read in her voice. I go on Tuesday to find if there are any meds that might help me with this. We weren't living together and we weren't legally separated. I had thought that it made a difference. Under Canadian family law, a separation is a separation, legally done or not. I knew about the 12 from the time we got back together and had talked them through. Mostly one-night stands and one relationship. I understand them and my wife was completely open about it. I didn't feel threatened by them. My wife insists that she went to him for the release and comfort she got from the bonding, but had no illusions that it was anything else. When we talk about the affair, there is a fondness in it that she didn't have for the others. From the emails, I get the sense there was something more there. He hadn't contacted her in 6 weeks and had been gone 2 weeks when she contacted him. I suspect that if he had been there when she emailed him, she would have gone to him. But I get the feeling that he was going to dump her anyway. When I asked her if he had replied would she still be with him, and she says she didn't know but didn't think it would have lasted much longer. She liked the bonding, and I am not sure that she has told me everything that passed between them. But he is gone and beyond reach. I don't believe in ghost whisperers, but when I suggested we meet up with a medium and maybe he'd stop by for a chat, and my erstwhile wife sort of flipped out. She does believe in her mind, he might show up. I guess that their relationship was the one that hurt the most and is the one where she showed the most connection. She regularly tells me she is sorry for what she has done to me and knows how badly I have been hurt by her. As has been said by others, the problems in our marriage split 50-50, but to seek out an affair, even if it was, so she says, just for bonding, is 100% on her. She has gone to the edge of a nervous collapse because of her guilt and shame and sadness. I am up late because I don't want to lie awake with my mind racing or asleep and having nightmares, and if I get into a dark enough place, I find her disgusting, but I go through the motions till I feel better. A year later. 1. I realized a few weeks ago that there is a difference between wanting the person to hurt as bad as you do and holding them accountable. 2. I learned that you can only own what you are responsible for, and that the other must own the things she is responsible for. 3. I bear responsibility for creating conditions in our marriage that might cause her to think an affair was the solution. But I am not responsible for her part in creating conditions that would lead her to believe that cheating was a good option for her. 4. I learned that anger has its place and time if healing is to occur, and that at some point love must take the lead, or the relationship must die. 5. To forgive is also a choice. It is not like an epiphany, or a watershed, or anything emotional at all. It is a decision to accept what happened and forgive that other person and forgive yourself. 6. I took a job that I loved, but that would neither make me rich or famous. I have had great success in guiding the lives of sons and daughters of other people, and my own son, into making good choice. No one but those students I taught, and who taught me, will ever know or remember what I have done. I can live with that. 7. That the OM was well known in his field, worked and knew famous people and put on great shows. But very little he did lasted longer than the night it was done. In the end, no matter how cool he was still a man who would knowing have slept with a married woman. And I wouldn't. 8. Self-esteem begins with self. For the first time last night I went to bed and fell asleep without a thought of the affair. Had no nightmares and did not think of her infidelity at all. It is still there. I will always be the betrayed and she will always be the cheater, and the man I was before is gone. But I can live with that. I am calm now, and at peace with it. I still have questions, but I am ready to face the answers. We are not out of the woods yet, and it is going to take more IC and MC to get this together. We have been married. The weekend I found out was our anniversary. 40 years. My comment: unlike other stories where other people can just walk away, OP is too old to do that. I think the positive news is that his wife will spend the rest of her time taking care of OP. Since he is aging rapidly, it sorts of worked out. Do you agree? Comment down below, and I will prepare another one soon.